It is time for The Voice for Real Estate. Brent Ward is the host of the show, and it's sponsored by the Leaders Mortgage Services at 36 Stone Bridge here in Jackson. Allstate Insurance. Angie Hooten Hughes is the local agent. Pete Dubuisson and National Property Inspections, and Bird Attorneys, our sponsors. We appreciate them being here with us each week. Good morning, Mr. Ward.
Good morning, Jimmy. How are you this morning?
I'm doing much better. I think the pollen has gone to bother somebody else for a change.
You sound better. You sound clearer in your voice.
I can actually breathe from my nose now.
I wish I could say the same for one of my children who seems to be having all kinds of issues with it. He's special breathing treatment and prednisone and all kinds of stuff. So
yeah, I feel for him. I have been in those shoes before as a child, as an adult also.
Yeah, so. My oldest son, he grew out of his, so he really doesn't suffer with it too bad. But my youngest son, boy, that's just something he's struggling through. But he'll get through it. He always does.
Oh yeah.
But
I noticed when the first thing that popped up on my phone this morning, one of my weather services on there gives me a little blip in the morning, and it said pollen will be high today. So
hadn't it been that way every day for like
what else is new?
Forever?
Lordy. What's going on in the wacky world of real estate?
Wacky world of real estate.
Sound like Wascally Wabbit.
Well, actually, this morning it's interesting. When we went to Cool Springs back a couple of months ago for the Tennessee Realtors Convention,
right.
I sat through a 2-hour class that was being hosted by TBI and FBI, and they were talking about cybercrime and real estate. And then that's what I knew I was coming on the air to talk about today. And I was hoping to have somebody here from the Jackson Police Department, but, those guys are kind of busy. So it's kind of hard to wrap those guys up sometimes. We tried really hard, and we'll get one on here eventually to really kind of get in depth about it. But I get a magazine that's dedicated just to AEs for what I am. And the topic of it on that magazine I got in the mail on Friday was cybercrime, so it worked out pretty good. So that's what we're going to kind of talk about today, because a lot of people don't realize that in the real estate industry there is a lot of cybercrime that goes on because real estate's such a lucrative market.
Yeah.
And I don't mean from the agent side, like commission type stuff. I'm talking about between the person buying the house and the closing. That's when it takes place in there. And it's kind of interesting how it works. I don't know if you ever had your email hacked or your computer's ever been hacked. You ever lost?
Yeah. And our church got ransomware not too long ago.
Oh yeah,
so
I was going to kind of.
I'm familiar with that, but not. I haven't been hacked to the point where it was a real problem.
Real problem,
like it can be.
I get. It's interesting because I get an email from one of my past presidents, a friend of mine that I know pretty well. And it started about 6 months ago that I got this just kind of weird email that came in, and it's funny, if you don't know what you're looking for, it's really easy to get you get caught by them. And so the topic said, saw something, made me think about you. I thought you'd be interested. Take a look. Now that's what it said. It's pretty generic, right?
Yeah.
And then it had an attachment to it, and that's where most people make their mistakes. Is they don't look at the address where the email came from, right? And it says your friend's name. It has your contact name on it, but then when you go up there and look, you realize it's a weird email address.
It's not him. Yeah.
It's not him. That's right. And so if you clicked on the link, then nothing might have happened, but more than likely something bad's going to happen. And what we learned about cybercrime during that TBI class is that that's how they get going. And the thing is, you don't know that they've done anything because they're just watching you now. They're watching every email communication you have, and they're looking for one that they think that they can jump in on. And the key thing there is a lot of your organized crime has moved from what we think of from movies and TV and stuff as far as organized crime, theft and drugs and stuff like that. A lot of them have moved to the online cyber crimes because it's hard for them to get caught when they're doing that. I mean, it's easy. I don't say easy, but it's easier to get away with a cybercrime than it is just a traditional crime. So they watch you for several weeks or months, and they're watching your emails come back and forth, and every once in a while they'll send one out just to test to see what happens that didn't really come from you, but it looks like it came from you with no malicious intent or anything.
Right.
It's really just to kind of get their email into the mix so that they got a paper trail back and forth. And then they keep on going, and they'll use stuff. And it's a good example, like if we were to spell out Central West Tennessee Association of Realtors in our address on our email, they might replace the E in Central with a 3, and you might not even notice that there's a missing letter in there. And they do the same thing with like Realtor. Instead of an O, they'll put a 0 in there. So you don't catch it. Instead of an S, a lot of times if you have something ends with an S, they'll put a 5 because it's easy for the human eye.
You don't notice it.
You don't notice it. And so they're watching, and then when it gets to that point to where they're getting ready to transfer funds, okay, from the mortgage company to the attorney's office to go into their escrow account, that's when they get involved. And they'll send out stuff that says, hey, we have new wiring instructions for the escrow funds, and they'll send it out, and they'll even include all the old emails, so it looks like when you go in, here's the whole entire paper trail of everything you've been emailing back and forth. They send new wiring instructions, and so naturally they send that over to their mortgage company, and the mortgage company thinks it's legit because it came from their buyer, and then they go in and they transfer it to this bogus fund that's out there somewhere. And the interesting thing, they said if it's within 24 hours that it's happened, you've got more of a chance to recoup the funds, and that's before the funds actually leave the United States. They say if the funds leave the United States, it gets harder and harder for them to get it back. And they said if it goes to a country, let's say like China, they only have just a little bit of leeway they can use because China's rules on that type of thing are naturally totally different than ours. And they said a lot of times it's really hard for them to get money back once it gets to China, and that's one of Taiwan and some of those other places. And they had a whole list of those. Well,
I'm sure that's why they use those foreign addresses in foreign countries. The more convoluted they can make it, the harder it is for you to try to find it. And that's the way it was with the ransomware.
That's right. Yeah.
My son got involved in that because he takes care of the computers at our church. He's an IT guy.
Sure.
And he had to go through. He was up late hours, 2 or 3 nights in a row because he was dealing with people in Russia. In that case, but in order to get that code to unlock all the stuff that they had tied up, you had to pay them in Bitcoin.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you had to buy the Bitcoin. And of course, there's a premium on the guy that you buy it from. There's a premium from the seller. There's a premium for the buyer. And then you got to transfer all that stuff. Then you got to get your code back. So the more convoluted these guys can make it, then the harder it is for us that we're trying to do right.
That's right.
I was going to ask you before you finished your thought exactly what it is they were looking for, but they're laying in wait until it's time for the money to transfer, and then they're sticking their hand in the pie.
Yeah, that's right. So just imagine let's just take an average house sale in Jackson is around the $150,000 mark, right?
Right.
So you're just sitting and waiting for them to transfer $150,000 from the mortgage company to the attorney's office, so they can do what they need to do with it from the attorney's office, pay off whatever, and pay the agents and everybody else. And what they're doing is they're interjecting themselves right there in the middle and having them switch that money from the attorney's office to an offshore account somewhere. And that's where they grab it, and they just grabbed $150,000.
Yeah, I had a judge friend of mine tell me one time, said these guys that do all this stuff, if they would just shift their focus to doing something right with the knowledge and the abilities that they've got, they could still make $1 billion.
Oh, sure they
might
could.
Take them a little longer.
That's right.
But
let's say be on the honest side of it, right?
Yeah, but again, man, that's just. It makes you not even want to turn your computer on sometimes.
It's pretty scary. We our Facebook, our CWTAR Facebook account about 4 years ago, our public page, which we had gotten up to, we were up to about 1,500, 2,000 subscribers on our on our Facebook, likes, and followers and everything else. And it got hacked. Our Facebook account got hacked, and it got taken over by, which is the weirdest thing, is some company selling dog stuff, pet supplies and stuff like that. It was weird. And I don't know if it was just, it was no ransom. There was no anything. They just hooked it to that, but they had gone in and changed all of our passwords and everything where we couldn't recover anything. But we never got anything offering us to sell us our information back. They just took it over and stuck it on somebody else, and we couldn't get it off. Luckily, it wasn't anything super bad, because I've heard of some being really bad stuff, But so anyways, we had to basically start all over again from scratch, and we're still trying to rebuild it back up. And right now we're at about maybe 600 people, but we were close to 2,000 at one point in time.
See, it's that kind of, it's the ancillary stuff that gets hacked is worse than the money that you might use. It's just the time and the effort and the slowdown in what you normally do trying to rebuild everything, and then you never know whether you really got it back the way it was or not.
That's right.
And
And
you don't have most people don't have a backup.
they don't. Well, they don't think about it, and
Yeah.
you know, and it's not cheap. I mean, I've got a really good IT guy that does all of our computers at work, and he custom built all of our computers individually for our needs, and he takes care of all that. And you know, we've got a firewall and all the kind of stuff that we've got to have. And we finally went to an online backup system, which is what most people recommend that you do, anyways. And hopefully, that if they encrypt your local storage, that it also doesn't catch and go there too. And I read some of the stories about some stuff they have to do, and I mean, like you talked about, it's super long, super intensive. If you don't have an insurance policy or somebody that handles that stuff for you, you know, a lot of that stuff's just gone.
Yeah.
National Association of Realtors actually carries cybercrime insurance for all the associations, so we have somebody to contact if that does happen to us to try to help us recover and tell us what to do. But you know, in a lot of situations, just like you were talking about, they end up having to pay the money.
Yeah.
And I did not know, but one Bitcoin is about $16,000 is what it said in the article that I read, because that's what the ransom was one Bitcoin.
Wow.
So anyways,
Man,
see.
I don't even how that. I don't understand how that works.
Well, at one point in time, I really thought Bitcoin was going out from what I had read about it, and the next thing I know, it just like resurfaced with, and now then that's like the thing.
Well,
Still,
that would indicate somebody's heavily invested with a whole lot more money than we have.
Lord, yes. That's not, well, you know, there's been talk about, and this is way off subject, but, you know, there's been talk about real estate going into the Bitcoin. They haven't quite gotten there on that yet either. So right now they're trying to circumvent it with other stuff that they're doing, but there is some point in time they may end up trying to do real estate transactions online using Bitcoin.
Yeah. Oh man.
So, like keeping up with the dollar wasn't hard enough. Now you got to keep up with the Bitcoin too.
You'll find me in the dinosaur section up at the at the museum in Union City. I just can't keep up with it anymore. You mentioned your Facebook page a minute ago, and we neglected to remind everybody that not only are we on 93.1 right now, but we're also on CWTAR's Facebook page on Facebook Live.
That's correct. Yes.
And Paul Schulze, the man with the hand in the closet
right.
over there. If we can, there he is. There's Paul. Paul's actually much bigger than that. That's the only part. That's the only part he can poke out there while he's still doing all the business that he needs to do. Paul's the owner operator of Worthy Road Studios. He takes care of all of our internet and digital stuff for us, and we really appreciate him making it possible for us to be on Facebook Live.
Yes, we do. We
Yes,
appreciate
indeed.
that very much.
Yes,
those
indeed.
come in handy. We've started uploading those to our YouTube channel that we set up several years ago that we didn't have anything on, but now then we're starting to populate that as well too. So
yeah, there's so many ways to get your word out there these days. You can almost spend most of your day just trying to cover all your bases.
you know, it's funny when a few years ago, about 3 years ago, I was trying to find we needed extra help in the office. I needed a part-time person to do something, and I had two ladies that I was talking to, and one of them was an older lady. And she would have been like the most perfect assistant in the world. She's just one of those that would have, if I'd asked her to do anything, she would have done it, and she would have been right there. What do you need me to do? And she had a great personality and just really bubbly. And then somebody sent me a resume for another lady, and I read over it, and I was like, gosh, this lady's got like advertising background, and you know, this is her thing. So I kind of waited out. And it just so happens the other lady had decided to go back to school. So I hired the second one that I got, which actually turns out to be Kimberly, who's been on the show with us before.
Yes.
And now Kimberly doesn't do a whole lot that I ask her. Oh, well, she does do a lot I ask her to do. But Kimberly is one of those just kind of like, are you sure that's what you want to do?
Yeah.
And she laughs because I hired her back after she left to go have her baby. And so I have her come back just 2 days a week. And she laughs. She says, that's why you hired me back, because I make you do stuff. So, but she's really good at this.
Everybody needs somebody to
You
punch them
do,
every now and then,
and like
you
you
know.
said, God, Facebook and these social media sites, they will suck up your time.
Yep.
And, you know, I've got a company I'm trying to run here and all these agents to deal with. I don't have time to do social media stuff, so that's why Kimberly is there. So she takes care of all this stuff for us, and I certainly appreciate her doing all that. So
absolutely.
But anyway,
so what other items did you pick up as far as cybercrime is concerned?
The main thing there is to have good security software. If you're a homeowner, you're just an individual, have good security software. But the main thing is to really be cautious, like being aware. Just like with safety, personal safety, that's what everybody tells you. Be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of what's going on. It's the same thing with the cybercrime. Watch what you're receiving over the email. Just because a friend's name may be attached to it. The one I told you about that I get about one of those about every month from the same person that reads just about identically the same. And the thing is I know that person. I know her personality, and that's not the way she would send me an email. It wouldn't be like that. And the fact that also her signature is not down at the bottom from the firm she works for, and this, that, and the other. And so there's just things you have to look for on these things, and just be really careful about it. And if you don't recognize where it's from, do not let curiosity get the better of you and open it up just to see what it is. And just anything can happen. And there's, interestingly enough, they can attach stuff to PDF files as well too. And a lot of people think that's not possible, but things can be attached to a PDF file. So that's why they still warn you, just because it's a PDF from somebody you don't know, still don't open it. And
I think the key, and it is now and always has been, if you have any question whether that's valid or not, dump it.
Dump it.
Yeah.
That's
right.
If
it's that important, somebody will send it to you again.
They'll send it to you again, and believe it or not, even in today's world, phone calls still take place.
Yes, they do.
So if they send you an email and you don't answer it after a while, probably somebody will call you. And a lot of your like IRS, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, like IRS, the post, these people do not contact you through email.
No.
They will send you a letter or they will call you on the phone, but most of the time they're going to send you a letter in the mail.
Yep.
Yeah, that's how they contact you. So, anything above and beyond that, and it's kind of like giving out your credit card information when somebody calls you on the phone. I don't give anybody that calls me any credit card information unless I've already talked to them and I know there's a phone call coming.
Exactly.
I ordered lunch for the office today and they're going to call me to get my credit card information. That's pretty common.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, so that's just the way we've always done it. I don't write it down and send it over on paper. And
I will not, and I don't know why, but it's just the way I do it. I will use my credit card if I'm buying something online.
Right.
But I will not give them my debit card number. I don't do that.
Well, let me tell you, I've had my debit card hacked 3 times in the last year and a half.
I haven't, so
so there you go.
And I don't want to.
I finally just switched it all over. I don't use debit card anymore. I've gone strictly to my PayPal account. Because there's some security there with the PayPal. I just didn't want to use it because kind of like you're talking about being archaic. That was one of those things I needed to go in, set it up, clean it up, make sure that it was working perfectly, this, that, and the other. And it was just easier using the debit card until somebody hacked it. Luckily, my wife's pretty diligent about looking at the account every day. And they start off with a little $3 here, $2 there just to see if you catch it. And if you don't catch it, then the big stuff starts to come in. And luckily, we've never been out anything. Our bank's been great to work with, and we catch it soon enough within a day or two. And now then they've gotten to where they watch it as well too, and so they know when they start seeing these things pop up, to be on the lookout for it. So they caught one the other day. They had 10 hits on it over the weekend, so they picked it up on a Friday, and it had been hit 10 times, and they caught all of them but 2. And then we picked those up on Monday morning when my wife went in and checked the account. So, and that's a form of cybercrime. It's just a much smaller scale.
I've heard people say, well, I was on vacation and the bank called, my credit card wouldn't go through, and I called them and they said there was a hold on the account. And they get all upset about it, which is understandable because you're out trying to have a good time. You don't want to deal with that. But in a lot of cases, they had frozen that account because they had a questionable transaction and they hadn't been able to get a hold of you yet.
I have experienced that through work because I travel all the time with work, and we had credit cards through the local bank. And when we would go, if we forgot to call and tell them we were getting ready to go out of town, I'd get maybe 2 transactions in wherever I was going, and then nothing worked after that. Not until we could get them on the phone to tell them, hey, I'm in South Carolina or I'm in Washington or wherever I might be. And it was very frustrating, and I used to get so upset about that because my biggest concern was they were going to kick the hotel reservations back. And I got 3 people on that reservation, lots of money. And I was just like, I'm going to be sleeping out on the sidewalk when I get back tonight because I got a freeze on my account. But anyway, so we switched for that, just that reason. And we carry a different card, because we don't have to call them all the time. But I understand while it's there. And I certainly appreciated the bank freezing my debit card this third time that it happened.
Yep.
You know, that just kept it going on from going even further. So
well, it can be a temporary pain in the rear end, but not nearly as bad as having to pay somebody else's charges on your account.
Well, you talked about ransomware a few minutes ago, and for those of you out there that don't really know what ransomware is, they basically take control of all of your financial information and everything. They got everything, and they won't release it to you until you pay a ransom. It's just like what it sounds like, ransomware.
Right.
And like you said, somebody's got to be able to go in. You got to have somebody like your son that can actually go in and get it paid, especially if it's in Bitcoin. It's not like you're writing a check.
True.
You know, you got to go in and do it, because I guess Bitcoin's pretty much untraceable. I guess I don't really know how that works.
It goes through a lot of hands.
It goes through a lot of hands. So anyways, ransomware is something else, and I read a couple of articles on that was kind of crazy. So anyway, there you go, cybercrime.
It's a different world.
It is a different world, and like you said, if people, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Catch Me If You Can. Have you ever seen that, Leonardo DiCaprio? You know, that's very interesting, because that's like the old style of taking advantage of people, but they ended up hiring him to work, you know, for the FBI to catch other people doing the same thing, because he was the creator of so much of that stuff.
You know, back 20 years ago, the only thing you had to worry about is somebody kiting a check on you.
That's right. That's right. Which is what he was doing through most of that
checks,
movie.
You know, you don't hear about that kind of stuff.
Oh,
anymore.
Lord, that's old school technology
Yes,
right
it
there.
is. Yes,
so
it
I think
is.
we got some sponsors there we need to talk about.
Yeah, we do. It's 10:35. This is The Voice for Real Estate, hosted by Brent Ward and sponsored by, or hosted by, the Central West Tennessee Association of Realtors. Our sponsors include Leaders Mortgage Services. They're located at 36 Stonebridge Drive here in Jackson, 215-6678. If you're talking about getting into the real estate market, buying or selling, eventually somebody's going to have to finance something in most cases, and that world has gotten a little bit confusing over the years to deal with too. You know, there's more than just FHA and conventional now.
Yes,
they can pretty much tailor a mortgage to fit your needs, make the payments fit what you're able to pay, and if you're a veteran, or if you have certain credentials that VA will fit, sometimes it's zero down. And minimal closing costs. There are just so many things that you need to have taken into consideration. So when you start the process, check with Leaders Mortgage Services first. Get that pre-approval. Let them tell you what they can do for you. Then you can go out and shop for a house pretty much conscience-free. You don't have to worry about it.
You can. We actually had a live feed from Leaders last Thursday.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. Guys were out there.
They were, and it was a good show, and they had tons of professional people come on the air and talk about the different things that they do. So Leaders is a great company to deal with, and a lot of good people that I've known for a long time. So
another thing that you will deal with if you're buying a house is the property inspection. Now that's back in my day, that was not something that was done. If you wanted one done, you could get your own done, but it wasn't required. In a lot of places, it's required now. So Pete Dubuisson, his company's called National Property Inspections. 467-6250 is his number, and that is normally a buyer's fee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But if you're a seller and you want to get that done previously, they can do that also.
They can.
Yeah.
And that goes a long way when you're trying to sell your property, if you get one done on the front end, so you can go ahead and take care of any issues that you might not know about.
Yep. Then when you get all this done, you got to insure it before you close the loan.
That's right.
The bank wants to make sure that if it burns down, somebody's going to get their money back.
That's exactly right.
And we suggest that you call Angie Hooten Hughes at 901-373-6060. She is the Jackson All-State agent. Not only can she help you with your homeowner's insurance, but she can take a look at all of your insurance packages, your life, your home, your auto. Put that in a bundle, save you a lot of money, save you a lot of difficulty. Remember, with Allstate, you're always in good hands, and Angie Hooten Hughes is your local agent. Now that we've got all that taken care of, we got to get the lawyers involved to make sure that title's good before we move into the house. You've been involved in that before.
I have been involved in that many times. Yes, I have, and they're the most important part right there at the end. Without them, it doesn't happen.
The Bird Attorneys, one of our sponsors, they've been in the legal business in Jackson since 1985. Just a few of the things that they can do for you in the real estate market: residential and commercial closings, title searches, insurance, foreclosures, buy-sell agreements, commercial leases and contracts. Every transaction, Charles Bird Sr. will review it. He'll look at things such as research and verify the property title, the covenants and restrictions for land uses, as well as zoning, deed restrictions. He's going to do that personally to make sure that everything is like it should be before he puts his signature on it and your loan is closed. Bird and Bird Attorneys, 424-7188. Our sponsors for The Voice for Real Estate. Brent Ward is your host.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Jimmy. And I think it's interesting with our sponsors there is in the way you've got them all staged out there, kind of in the process that you'd go through, the way from start to finish. There, we're only missing a couple of pieces,
made
but
sense.
It did. Yeah, no, that works out the way they fell. That works out pretty good. And it's interesting all the different pieces that are involved and the different hands that have to touch a real estate transaction from start to close.
There's more to it than just saying I'll take it, here's a check.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's we talk about that all the time, and a lot of people don't think about it. If you haven't bought and sold a lot of properties over the year, or maybe you never bought or sold a property at all, your first one, but the only thing that people have to compare buying and selling homes to are cars.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the second most expensive thing you're probably going to own. Most people will never own their own business, so they're not going to have that expense. So their house is it.
Yep.
And the difference between buying a house and a car is night and day.
Totally different.
Yeah, totally different. You can walk into any car dealership pretty much anywhere, and it doesn't matter what your credit looks like. Somehow or another, they're going to let you walk off that lot with a car.
Yep.
That's just the way it works. And housing is not that way. You've got to have a good credit score. You've got to have some credit history behind your name, and you've got to qualify for a loan. And and using the fact that you've been a renter for forever, and you're paying X number of dollars in rent has no bearing whatsoever on whether or not you can get a home. It doesn't, because if you don't have a good credit score to go along with that good rent payment, you don't qualify.
Credit score is the key. I remember back in Johnny Carson's days, he did a Tea Time movie character. The guy's name was Art Fern. And one of his make believe sponsors was a fly by night lender, and he said don't have a job, we don't care. Don't have any money, we don't care. Think you're not going to pay us back? That's when we care. So you got to get all that stuff taken care of on the front end, and it is a major process. Therefore, we also would recommend that when you start that process, find a realtor that you can deal with, somebody that you trust, somebody you know maybe.
That's right.
But find somebody that you can trust that is a licensed real estate a person, a broker maybe, or not necessarily a broker,
right,
but a licensed real estate individual, and work with them, because they know all of these puzzle pieces and they know how to put that puzzle together, and it saves you a lot of headaches and hassle. You can go out and enjoy the process of looking at homes, pick out that forever home for you, and let the realtor take care of the grunt work.
That's right. That's what they're there for. And that is a perfect lead in to what I'm getting ready to talk about now as we transition from cybercrime.
How do we do that?
Yeah, how do you become a real estate agent? That's always a question I get asked. I get a lot of phone calls on that all the time, and that's a topic that I love because I know quite a bit about it, and so I can talk a long time about that. So quickly, in a nutshell, just like anything else, you've got to take a class and you got to pass a test. And the good news about that is we haven't had a real estate school here since about 2008. As the last time Jackson actually had a real estate school in town. Right. And did not realize that Jackson State had even stopped teaching classes prior to that. And so, the only way you could get a real estate license or to go to school would be to drive to Memphis or drive to Nashville or take it online.
Right.
And no offense against any online classes, but the online classes are difficult because there's nobody to ask questions to. True. There's no class discussion. There's no why do we do things the way that we do them. And I can say from my years in real estate, sometimes you just scratch your head and say, this is the way it's supposed to be done,
right,
and you just have to move forward. So it is difficult. I'm not saying online's not the best way because so many of our agents got them that way, but if you could ever go to a classroom, that is always the best route to take. And so the good news there is we actually have real estate classes coming to CWTAR Monday of next week on May the 20th.
That's a good thing.
And they are being taught by TREES, which is the Tennessee Real Estate Education Systems of Tennessee. They are the state's largest and longest-running real estate school, and that's actually who used to have our classroom here in town, our school here in town. And when the recession hit, they had no choice but to close it down. They just weren't having enough to go, and so we've worked out a deal with them. This will be our third year that we've brought classes back to Jackson, and a lot of people have been getting involved with that, and it's been great. And what I can tell you on that is, if you're interested and thought about being a real estate agent and just want to weigh the pros and the cons, give me a call at the association office. It's 731-668-4907, or you can always shoot me an email, and that's brentward@cwtar.com. I'll be happy to answer any of the questions. Or if you just want to call and sign up and you know it's something you want to do, call either one of those two same numbers. I'll get you in contact with Dana. She's our operations manager. She'll get you all signed up and you're ready to go. But those classes are 2 weeks in a row. They start on Monday of next week, the 20th, and they run through the 31st, and they meet from 9 until 4. And if you're good, a lot of times the instructor will let you out a little earlier.
Yep. And
they will not meet on Monday. What is that, Labor Day coming up?
Yeah, Memorial Day.
Memorial Day.
Yep.
I always get those two backwards.
Yeah, so do I.
So Memorial Day is coming up, so they're not going to meet that day. So you may end up having to stay till 4 every day to make up for those extra hours you won't meet on that Monday. But anyways, it's a good way to get it. You got a very qualified instructor. He's been here every time, and he's really good. He's actually out of the Cool Springs area around Nashville. And then, of course, always, if you have to have the nighttime classes, you can always contact Jackson State, because they are also back teaching real estate classes at night. And then, other than that, that's pretty much it. You got a few more things you have to do, but the main thing is you got to be able to pass the test.
Right.
And that's where the school comes in handy, because they're going to help you. They're going to teach you how to pass the test. And then once you get done with that, and then you got to figure out where you want to go work. You've got to get your E&O insurance, and then you just got to send it up and turn it in.
It's like the process of buying and selling. It's not just go to school and pass the test.
No, it's not.
There are other puzzle pieces that need to fall into place. That's why you call CWTAR, because they can help you get it done.
We can help you get through it. We can walk you through it, and then we can tell you the questions to ask when you go out and try to find that brokerage to go work for as well, too.
Absolutely.
Because I tell everybody all the time that, not all brokerages are different. They just are.
Yep.
And, there's a lot of good ones out there, and you just got to find the one that fits your personality and the way you do business and the way you work, because some agents are, they're gung-ho. They don't need any help. They've learned it. They've retained it, and they hit the ground running, and they go.
Yep.
Then you got those others that are a little timid about it, and they're not 100% sure. Maybe they haven't had that many transactions in their past, and so, they're still kind of weigh it out a little bit. They might need a little hands-on, somebody to kind of help walk them through, maybe attend a couple of closings or whatever, and so every firm is not that way. So you got to find the ones that'll fit that.
Find the one that fits your needs, and you're off and running.
That's right. That's the way it works.
All right, man.
So that's pretty much it.
Always glad to have you up.
Thank you, sir.
Always learn a little something every time. So you're doing your due diligence.
Well, I'm hoping I'll learn something new while I'm gone. I'm getting ready to head out to Washington, D.C. tomorrow.
Don't get caught in the swamp.
Well, luckily I'm a little off the beaten path over there where we were going to be, but I do this trip every year, and I usually come back with some nugget of knowledge that I didn't know before I got there. So
what's going on up there now? They may put a tariff on you. We won't get you back. We'll have to pay a tariff on you to get you back into Tennessee.
If that's left up to my wife, I don't know now. It might be. Just leave him where it is. We'll call him if we need anything.
That's a story for next week.
That's right. It is.
Brent, thank you so much.
Thanks,
Brent Ward,
Jimmy.
your
I
host
appreciate
this
it.
morning. It is the Voice for Real Estate presentation of Central West Tennessee Association of Realtors, and sponsored by Leaders Mortgage Services, Allstate Insurance, Angie Hooten Hughes Agent, Pete Dubuisson, National Property Inspections, and Bird & Bird Attorneys. 424-7188. The Mid-Morning Mix continues.
Hey, this is Chuck Walker.